What is the role of legal counsel in a mental health setting? And what does a day in the life of Kendra Naidoo look like?
So much like Tom, my days look very different every single day. The focus of my role at CAMH is supporting our clinical teams in the work that they do. My boss always says, we help the people who help people. People often think of the law as telling you what you can't do, and sometimes that's the case, but the law in the mental health setting also provides a lot of tools that can help us ensure that our clients or our patients are getting the best possible care. So my role involves ensuring that our healthcare providers are aware of their obligations and aware of the framework in which they're providing healthcare, but also that they know the kinds of tools that are available in the law to help them advance the care and recovery of our patients. At CAMH, we're very focused on the concept of client-centered care, and as a lawyer, I believe very strongly that that includes the concept of rights-based care. In other words, how do we provide the best possible mental health care, but also protect and empower the rights of our very vulnerable clients? And so a lot of my day is spent talking about how we can achieve those things. Some examples of the types of stuff that I advise on a daily basis include how we can have people admitted to hospital and have them stay in hospital if they need to, how we can enable treatment in the community for our clients, issues of consent to treatment and who is making decisions about things like treatment, managing finances, where someone's going to live, issues of privacy and protecting personal health information, how we work with families and what's the role of families and support people in the care of our clients, as well as when our clients at CAMH, we refer to our patients as clients in case that's confusing, but when our clients are involved in the criminal justice system, what is the relationship between the healthcare that we're providing and the criminal justice system? How are we maintaining good and impactful relationships with the police and the correctional services, issues around use of social media, both by healthcare providers and by our patients, and how do we maintain effective relationships with our community partners. Like Tom, much of my day is spent on the units or at clinical case conferences, consulting with our teams, but also advising on our organizational policies, providing education in forums like this, as well as internally. And in my spare time, I also litigate on behalf of the organization, so I represent our healthcare providers before their regulatory colleges and before the mental health tribunals involving the Consenting Capacity Board and the Ontario Review Board. So that's what a day in my life looks like.
So Kendra, can you talk a bit about the ORB, the Ontario Review Board, and just how does it impact mental health care? Sorry, I started to read that question and that still follows the question. Yeah, so just talk a bit about that and how it impacts someone's support.
Sure, so Tom has set the bar pretty high on the timing, so I'll do my best. We often think about criminal proceedings or the outcome of criminal proceedings in terms of a finding of guilty or of not guilty. But in actual fact, there are two other possible outcomes when somebody is charged with an offense and that process goes to completion. So those other two possible outcomes, the first is a finding of unfit to stand trial. So the concept that everyone who's charged with a criminal offense has the right to a fair trial is sort of fundamental to our rights under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And what has been decided is that if someone is suffering from a mental condition that prevents them from being able to engage in that trial process at a very basic level, if they're so sick that they can't have a fair trial, then we can't try that person for that criminal offense. And so if that's the case, that person would not be found guilty or not guilty, they may be found unfit to stand trial. And that threshold is really very, very low. It really requires just that they know what's going on, so they know what they're able to sort of articulate what is a judge, what is a lawyer, what does the Crown Attorney do, what does it mean to be found guilty or not guilty, or know that those are the options, understand the meaning of taking an oath and the importance of telling the truth. and be able to articulate at some basic level what could happen if they are found guilty, which would mean going to jail or not going to jail. And the other concept behind unfitness is whether that person is able to communicate with and instruct a lawyer. So that's unfitness to stand trial. And the other possible outcome from a criminal proceeding is that someone's found not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder, and that's often referred to as NCR. The concept of NCR is that someone is found to have actually done the action that is allegedly criminal in nature. So a very basic example of that is that if someone walks up to a stranger on the street and punches them in the face, if they're to be found NCR, it would be found that they did in fact walk up to a stranger and punch them in the face, but they either didn't know what they were doing, they didn't know that what they were doing was wrong, or they were not able to control their behavior. And it's one of those things, and it's because they are suffering from a mental disorder. So the mental disorder robbed them of the ability to know what they were doing, know that it was wrong, or be in control of their behavior. So if someone is found either unfit to stand trial or not criminally responsible, they aren't just sort of released out into the public. They would be assigned to a forensic psychiatric hospital like CAMH and come under the jurisdiction of the Ontario Review Board. And the Ontario Review Board is a tribunal that functions in the way of a more informal court. And every year, the Ontario Review Board would meet to decide what's going to happen for the next coming year. So does that person have to be admitted to hospital? How much access can they have off the unit or on the hospital grounds? How much access will they have to the community? Where will they live? Who gets to approve it? And what sort of conditions might be put on them, including no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no contact with the victim, etc. I think I'm at time.
Thank you so much.